Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure for me to be here presenting my region, Latin America. And I want to just take a moment to thank not only Yelena and her group who did such a wonderful job, but also to all the sponsors of the meeting that allow us to be here today. But I will tell you today about Latin America. I had to put this slide just to tell you a little bit more about who I am. I was born and raised in Argentina. Maybe somebody doesn't know that I'm a nurse, and I'm also a teacher. I had those 2 degrees in Argentina, and then I have a master's degree in environmental education from the University of Washington, all that before I became an advocate. And I had to put this picture for my dear friend from Uganda, Edward, which I wanted everybody to meet Edward because, stand up, Edward. He's his first time here, and now he has 100 new friends. And he says to me that he thinks I am a lion, so I just wanted to show him the picture with one of my children. So. But this is my region, Latin America, and I do have to say that we consider Mexico part of Latin America, even though technically, from a geographical point of view, it's a part of North America. But there are 24 organizations in 17 countries in Latin America with focus on CML. Only 2 countries, I think, that I don't know of a CML organization. One is Cuba, and the other one is Panama. There are 10 organizations, including the Max Foundation, who are members of the CML Advocates Network from the region. The Max Foundation has 9 team members that are dedicated to the region. And I want to say there's 5 of us delegates here in CML Horizons from Latin America. Where is Marisabel from Venezuela? Where are you, Marisabel? Marisabel from Venezuela, Silvia from Guatemala. Where's Silvia? There, over there. Jose from Costa Rica, there. And is Carolina here from Abrale? I haven't seen her. We don't know. It arrives later? Okay, and myself. So we're proud to be representing our region. So one of the things, if I think about the regional characteristics as it relates to CML, almost all of the region except Brazil speaks Spanish, and I think that's a very important part of how we relate to the rest of the world and how we can work together as a region. Most of the countries have laws that are pro-patient, but oftentimes these laws are not applied in the countries. Most countries have this called social security, so if you have a job that is a formal job, that Social Security provides services and many times access to health care. But in many of the countries, about half of the population is not involved in structured jobs. So half of the population sort of falls through the cracks of the system and doesn't have access to health care. And one of the things that is also important is the procurement of drugs in the formulary are often based on price and not on quality or on anything else. So it often includes generics and copies of drugs. So all these have been things that make our region, make the challenges that we have. I wanted to point out in terms of access to treatment for CML. So like I said, in almost all the countries, the Social Security today will provide at least imatinib and some of the other second-generation TKIs as well. In the past few years, some of the countries in the region have been passing laws that protect patients outside of Social Security, so this is a really good step in the right direction. We have had the GPAP program that many of you know, which is a program of Novartis that has provided Gleevec to many of the countries in Latin America, especially to those parts of the population that fell through the cracks of the system. And some of the countries have the newest sort of access program from Novartis, that is the NOAA program. Some examples of success. Argentina is a country where Patients, they're really pro-patient laws, and the patients can go through the judicial system to force the government or the insurance company to provide the drug that you need. And as advocates, the patient organization and my colleagues in Argentina have been really good at driving that process so that almost every patient can have access to treatment. In Mexico, in the last few years, the government came up with this called Seguro Popular, the popular insurance, that covers all cancers in children. So it has covered CML treatment for children in Mexico. And in the Dominican Republic, there's something new called Seguro Protegido, protected insurance, that also is providing access to treatment for CML for all the population. So these are really good improvements that we have done. And I do want to say that Venezuela, where for the past 10 years or whatever number of years, all the TKIs have been, or branded TKIs have been reimbursed, and a lot of it is thanks to the tireless work of Marisabel, present here, that has really advocated for her and her group. The challenges that we have, one of the main challenges that we've had is fighting against the copies that are coming to the country. So I was very happy when one of the session title is the new reality, the copies and the generics, because we have had this old reality for a very long time, and people like the advocates that we have here, Silvia and Marisabel, and have really fought to make sure that there's controls of quality of the drugs that are coming to the region. We have a lot of problem with access disparities, both between countries and within countries. So this problem of the population that is not helped by the government and nobody else would help them. Because we have had sort of these complex systems of coverage of CML treatment, interruptions of supply is a big problem. And, you know, one time you go to get your drug and you have drug, and then the next time you go and there is no drug, and so it's very difficult to be compliant when that happens. As like any of our countries, we have a lot of socioeconomic barriers to access to treatment. So when you have, for instance, a program like GPAP, which actually provides access to the drug, but the patient has to come to some city to pick up the drug, and then you know that to go back home they have to beg in the street to get money to the transportation back to their town. I mean, it's very difficult to manage in the middle of some very, very bad socioeconomic situation for some patients. Access to PCR has been a problem too in many of the countries, especially in Central America. There is no access to PCR, so we have been doing a lot of work bringing PCR technology to Central America. And then the education of both the patients and the physicians has been something that is one of our biggest challenges. Did I forget to mention Mercedes, who is here? Sorry, Mercedes, raise your hand. She's my colleague from Argentina, so I'm so sorry, Mercedes, that I forgot you. Because she's the one that does all the work. So I'm here presenting, but she's the one that does the work. So we have some really great examples of advocacy work in the region. One is Alianza Latina. There's also a working group we started last year called la LAMSA. There's a really good and successful regional disease education series and some monitoring and adherence programs. And I wanted to say Carolina from Abrale, who is coming soon, I guess, is the one that has organized for several years now Alianza Latina. It's a conference of organizations started with hematological diseases and now has expanded in scope to other diseases as well. But it does a really good job in increasing the knowledge and capacity building of groups and networking among themselves. This, like I said, we have this working group for leaders of Spanish-speaking organizations in Latin America, and we met last year for the first time in Costa Rica, hosted by the Costa Rica group, to do some mentorship and establishing priorities of work in the region. And this is one of the coolest programs that I have seen, so I'm always talking about it. But because we have all these countries that speak the same language, we have done a series of talks by Dr. Cortez, who would come to a country and will organize a patient meeting, so he's giving a talk. But thanks to the tireless work of Mercedes, she would coordinate with all the patient organizations in the region and simultaneously host 32 patient meetings at the same time in different cities in the region, and everybody is connected online and asking questions of Dr. Cortez and listening to the presentation. So I think that's it's a really great way. We have about sometimes more than 1,000 people at a time online in 14 countries or so. Our priorities are, I think, to learn the laws of the country. So as advocates, because we have these really important pro-patient laws, learning the laws of the countries is a very important part of our work. Because there's, like it happens sometimes, the rules of how to get the drugs change all the time. So I think that developing a robust database and sort of communication tree among the patients, members of the group, is very important. Identifying key individuals in the government and hospitals to advocate and educate them, to provide navigation system for the patients to learn how to navigate the bureaucracy of the country, and then to learn about disease management in order to be able to answer questions from patients. As patient leaders, I think many of us know you go back to your country and all your members are asking you questions, and so that's why you're here learning more about CML. And the priorities for the group leaders are the copies have become a really big problem, so developing information and education for the government officials to explain to them the difference between a branded and a generic is very important. Identifying social programs that can help the patients is also very important, and using the legal system to get access to treatment is also a priority. And then lastly, how can CML advocates help? I believe that we have this issue of the language barrier. So why do we have 24 groups in my region that are dealing with CML, but only 4 or 5 people here? Is because we don't have enough leaders of the groups that speak English. And so I think that we have to do a little bit of both, of translating materials, but also I believe a very important thing is to train the leaders of organizations in speaking English so they can communicate with the rest of the world. In terms of the copies and the generics, it would be great if someday, if I can have my wish, there will be some partnership with a lab when we are suspicious of a pill that we don't think is good quality, we could send it there and get tested. That would be a great thing. And learn more about how to report adverse events, because when, as patient leaders, as people, we can report side effects to the health authorities, and I think that we can play a role when we see that. And then I would wish that we can develop one very simple material about CML awareness that we can all have available for CML Awareness Day this year. So that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Pat. The floor is now open for questions or discussion. Anybody wants to ask anything, please raise your hand. And then for use the mic, you need to press the button on the right side, and then you can speak. Well, everybody knows how to tackle.
Can you elaborate on some of the success stories or good experience on the South American, like the Argentina? How does the advocate putting the judicial system to work for the patient to fight to garner enough subsidy from, say, government, or on the other hand, involving drug reduction from the pharma company?
Because so the law, there's a law that says that every patient should have the right of access to treatment. So if you have an insurance company and the doctor is prescribing you a drug, and the insurance company says that they don't want to give it to you because it's too expensive, you go to and sue the insurance company, and the judges always will come in the side of the patient. So when a new drug comes, we do that 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Then finally the insurance companies or the government figure out that they're not going to win, so then they start reimbursing the drugs. And you can, as a patient, if the doctor is prescribing the branded drug, then you can demand the branded drug too. But it takes a lot of work of working with some lawyers and actually suing the government or the insurance to get access to the drug.
The question.
The bottom.
Oh.
Can you please press the button?
The legal system is very expensive. Where does
so you're asking, we work with lawyers that we partner with to, okay, Mercedes, who is the expert really.
Yeah, hello. The patient group in Argentina has hired lawyers who help every patient who asks them for help. So when we detect that a patient is having problems receiving the medication, we refer them to ALMA, the patient group, and ALMA helps them for free with their lawyers.
So who pay for the lawyers?
ALMA pays for the lawyers, the patient group, with their funds.
How is the long procedure, please?
How long is the process?
Well, it depends on what the insurance does. For example, at first they sent a letter called Carta Documento, which is like a warning. Sometimes they give them the medication then, sometimes they don't. So if they don't, they have to go to trial. It could take like 6 months sometimes.
But the more it happens, the quicker it happens, Mercedes?
It also depends on the insurance company. Sometimes, when it's an insurance company, it happens faster. Sometimes we have to sue the government if the patient does not have an insurance. So the government, it could take longer.
Really sorry, but time's up. We'd like to accommodate more questions for Pat, but you can talk to her during the break time.
Thank you.
Pat, thank you very much.